Hello and welcome. My name is Rose Writes, where I write and narrate Miraculous Ladybug fanfiction. If you like what you hear, think about dropping a like and subscribing. That would be awesome. Now, without further ado, please enjoy Chapter 4, Dinner with Parents. Cat Noir, take this seriously! Ladybug yelled from atop the Eiffel Tower, her frustration growing. As soon as Cat Noir turned around to look her way, bam! He was hit with a Nerf gun dart square in the back. Cat Noir, no! Swiftly, Cat Noir turned on Ladybug and said with his face twisting in a sadistic grin, "Do you want to play with me, Ladybug?" Ladybug huffed in exasperation. Not only do I have to find the Akuma, I have to deal with Cat Noir trying to turn me into a plaything. Today's challenge? Placater. A child got akumatized after neither of his parents had time to play with him. So, through his magic darts, anyone he hits is at his mercy to play with him, or when Hawkmoth is in control, give him the bug and cat Miraculous. Placater, good boy. You now have Cat Noir under your control. Seize his Miraculous, now! Hawkmoth urged the boy. No! Placater screamed like a stubborn child not wanting to go to bed. First, I want to squash this bad bug. Ew, I hate bugs! And your kitty friend is going to help me. The akumatized child giggled devilishly. Ladybug, not missing a beat, said, Aw, play nice, Placater. As a side thought, she added, This would be a good time for my lucky charm! Descending from the sky came a piece of rope. How is she going to subdue this child with a piece of rope? Unless... She looked around, attempting to stumble on the solution. As she frantically looked around, Cat Noir continuously lunged and grabbed at her. She had to keep dodging and try to focus. Ladybug could hear the rhythmic beating of her heart resonating in her ears. She and Cat Noir were dancing this tango of death. He had called for his cataclysm, so the stakes were much higher. She had to avoid the right hand at all costs. Whew! She suddenly wished she had been more faithful to her yoga routine every evening. While dancing with Cat Noir, Ladybug frantically peered around for the solution suggested by her lucky charm. Then it hit her, like a Nerf gun dart in the back. The Eiffel Tower, her yo-yo, this child, of course! The rope was just giving her a hint. She remembered the time she and her currently disposed partner took on Hawkmoth face-to-face on Heroes Day a year ago. They made a trap so he couldn't escape the Eiffel Tower, but instead of a trap, she would make a playpen. Got it. Over here, Placater, don't you want to play with me? Ladybug taunted, luring him into her trap. She bounded around the entire inner of the Eiffel Tower, distracting Placater as he desperately tried to find the bug. He looked a little disoriented as he slowly approached her. She had run out of places to go after creating her trap, and she was suspended from a beam of the Eiffel Tower. Placater raised his Nerf gun and said, Get ready to play, bug! She looked at the brightly colored object. Using her strengthened core, Ladybug did a pull-up as he shot at her. He had to reload. Now's my chance, she thought. What I wouldn't give for a cataclysm right now. Well, a cataclysm that isn't aimed for me. She released her yo-yo and lunged at Placater, seizing his Nerf gun. She whipped it to the ground and it burst open, releasing the poisonous purple butterfly. Very smoothly, Ladybug, with the former Akuma victim in her arms, carried him to safety. The evil butterfly was purified and hundreds of ladybugs swept the city streets, repairing the havoc caused from Placater. She handed the child off to his traumatized parents who were waiting below. Her partner returned to her side at the end of the fight. Leaning on his baton with a smug grin, he said, Positively perfect, as usual, m'lady. Ladybug couldn't help but laugh. She was just relieved he was back to normal. As normal as Cat Noir could be, that is. Wow, Minu, 2 puns in 1 sentence? Are you overcompensating for getting taken out so early? She teased. In typical dramatic fashion, Cat Noir draped a hand over his forehead like a damsel in distress, and said, I know! Quite the catastrophe, wouldn't you agree? She rolled her eyes at yet another cat pun. Just as she was planning her retort, her first warning beep sounded. I'd love to help you with your clown act, Chaton, but I'm about to lose my costume. She tried to play into his puns, but she wasn't quite as good at it as he was. I wouldn't mind that, milady. You know I would love you no matter who you are. He closed his eyes and puckered out his lips, hoping for a kiss. Shh, Minou, she said, pressing her index finger gently to his lips. You know I can't. She let out a small chuckle. I know, Bugaboo. Only teasing, I swear. Besides, we better run along. I have somewhere to be anyway. Have fun! She waved and gave him a smile that all but melted his insides. Bug out! And away on her yo-yo she flew. Cat Noir watched her glide away with a halo around her as she ventured off into the sunset. Cat Noir sighed happily and whispered to himself, I meant what I said. Whoever she is behind that mask, I love that girl. With everything I am. He suddenly remembered he had dinner to get to, even after just telling his lady he had somewhere to be. A date? Oh man, had he really just called it that? He didn't want to send Marinette the wrong message or lead her on. She hates dishonesty more than anything. But he wasn't being dishonest, was he? She was a friend. A really great friend. Besides Nino, she was probably his best friend. He didn't want to mess this up. Marinette's father, Tom, opened the door of the bakery, letting the scent of freshly baked croissants tickle their senses. Bonjour, mister. Before Adrien finished, Mr. Dupin had wrapped the thin boy in a gripping hug. Welcome, Adrien! It's so good to see you. He was still clutching the boy in his massive arms. Thank you, Mr. Dupin, Adrien strained. It's good to see you too. Adrien barely managed to get out the sentence. Papa! Marinette suddenly appeared through the back door of the bakery. You're smothering him! Oh! Tom abruptly let go of the boy, who was now taking deep breaths to recover. Sorry about that, Adrien. Tom put his hand on the back of his head in embarrassment. No worries, monsieur. Adrien shot Marinette a grateful look as his breathing settled. Let's head upstairs. Dinner is ready. I even have several pastries ready for tasting. Tom hummed in satisfaction. The three headed upstairs to the apartment portion of the bakery. The aroma was overwhelming. The smell lingered in their nostrils, pleasantly making their mouths water. Sabine had fixed the most delicious boeuf bourguignon Adrien had ever tasted. The meat was so tender, mixed with the broth made from vegetables and red wine. It was simply exquisite. This is delicious, Mrs. Chang, and by far the friendliest meal I've had in a long time. He smiled with a bit of darkness behind his eyes. Marinette could only assume he was talking about his father. She knew their relationship had been strained. Marinette realized she had been deeply blessed in terms of her family life. Well, Adrien, responded Sabine, you are welcome here any time. As far as I'm concerned, you are already part of our family. She smiled warmly at him. His eyes lit up at the mention of family, something he often felt like he didn't have. His father was always busy. His mother was gone, and the only other family he had was in London. Wow, thank you, Mrs. Chang. That means the world to me. Beside him, Marinette blushed a gentle tone of rosy pink. And for dessert, Mr. Dupin came whirling out of the kitchen with a cake plate in hand. This lovely chocolate soufflé. He placed the plate gingerly on the table so as not to make the tender cake fall. Marinette noticed the cake was heart-shaped. What did this mean? Did her parents know about her crush on Adrien? What if he knew? Oh, God, she thought. Maybe if I just don't acknowledge it, everything will be fine. Yeah, heart-shaped cakes are totally normal. Nothing is going on. Not at all. She lied to herself. Her posture went rigid. Adrien noticed this minute change in her demeanor. He reached a hand under the table to squeeze hers, as if reassuring her that everything is fine, even though he really had no idea what was going on. She returned the gentle exchange, her face increasingly more pink. After eating this delicious meal, time had gotten away from them. Tom and Sabine yawned simultaneously. Sabine said through a sleepy sigh, It's quite late. We have to wake up at 4 a.m. to prepare the bakery. Sorry, we probably won't be up for Mario Kart tonight. Tom nodded in drowsy agreement. But if you and Marinette wish to play, you can. It's Friday, so no school. What do you say, Marinette? Adrien stared at Marinette, a jesting look in his eyes. Do you want to face the reigning Mario Kart champion? Yes! She cried out. Yes, you're on. Get ready to be dethroned. She crossed her arms smugly and grabbed the controllers and console. Come on, Adrien! She ran upstairs as Adrien lingered behind to stare at her, watching the way her hips swayed back and forth. He shook his head. He shouldn't be gazing at her like this. Oh boy. Something was so subtly different in her demeanor. It was very attractive. She seemed more confident and sure of herself. He broke out of a trance and quickly chased after her. They chose their characters. Rosalina? I would have pegged you more as a Princess Peach kind of girl. She laughed. Why? Princess Peach is so basic. I think that's why I like her, but Rosalina is great. Makes you choose Mario, she remarked, not very surprised at all. I guess I'm just drawn to the hero who is always trying to protect his princess. He smiled thoughtfully. Pathetic, huh? Did he just blush? Marinette shook her head fervently. I don't think so. I think it's a sweet idea. She paused. Now, self-proclaimed Mario Kart master, ready to meet your doom? A spark of competitiveness flickered in her eye. The friends did several races, Marinette winning most of them, except for one where Adrien threw a red shell right before her cart crossed the finish line of her final lap. No fair! Marinette shouted. Adrien stared at her, shocked, and then a mischievous grin appeared on his handsome face. What's wrong, Marinette? Upset that you were carted away? He laughed, a sound Marinette truly loved. But it didn't stop her from cringing at his awful pun. What, not a pun fan? Lucky for you, I have puns in abundance. He grinned, clearly loving her reaction. She snorted as she laughed, then quickly covered her face, embarrassed by her laugh. He cracked up in return. All of these puns. It reminded her of... She didn't even want to think about it. She pushed away thoughts of her black-suited partner. Has your humor always been so punny? She made an endearing face. He gave a slight chuckle and said, Only for you. I feel comfortable around you, Marinette. Like I can truly be myself around you. And I love puns. He smiled shyly, not knowing how she would take this. She thankfully returned his smile. This time, it was she that reached for his hand. Of course, Adrien. Her beautiful blue eyes sparkled in the moonlight streaming in through her window. They were breathtaking. She stopped herself. Her face was hot, and as red as her secret identity's costume. I care about you. A lot. She let out a half-hearted giggle and thought to herself, he doesn't love you back. He probably never will. She tried not to let her feelings show, but failed. Marinette, you okay? He asked, clearly concerned. Oh, yeah, I'm fine. Don't worry. Are you sure? You've listened to me enough times. You know I'm here for you. He said reassuringly. Well, okay. She was hesitant. She wanted to talk about her love for Adrien and maybe give him some hints. Subtly, of course. Was she strong enough to do this? What was she doing? I am super cool. Super cool. She laughed at the thought, as over the past year she has psyched herself up several times to talk with Adrien, but never about her feelings for him. There's this boy that I don't know much about relationships, but I love him. Yeah, he doesn't know. I've been head over heels in love with him for a year, and he barely pays me any attention. We have gotten a little closer recently, but... She sighed heavily. I mean, it's fine. We're friends, which is great, but I just want to be more than that. He's the most wonderful person I know. He has feelings for someone else, and she sounds great, so I just want him to be happy, that's all. Whew, I don't know what brought all that on. One silent tear slipped down her face. Sorry, Adrien. Anyway, this has been a fun night, huh? She attempted to change the subject. Her bangs fell in her face deliberately to conceal her tears. Marinette, You are wonderful. And if he doesn't see that, is he really worth it? You deserve to be happy too. Does he make you happy? Adrienne was pondering who she could be talking about. He really does make me happy. Just hearing his laugh or talking to him, it makes me happy. She sounded like she was trying to convince herself of this. We have been hanging out more recently, but, we're just friends, and that's enough. She smiled through her hushed sobs. Adrienne ran his fingers through her bangs to see her eyes. He softly cupped her cheek with one hand as he wiped her tears with his sleeve. I don't want you to waste your tears on someone who doesn't deserve it. She quietly giggled. The way her starry eyes stared back at him reminded him of the one he loved, his Ladybug. He suddenly felt as if her stare was magnetic. Her eyes were a pool he wanted to dive into. Slowly, their faces moved closer together, one hand of Adrienne's still on Marinette's silky skin, still wet with tears. She brought a hand to cradle his neck, and then, as their faces were mere centimeters apart, hearts beating out of their chests, they both seemed to stop moving, but didn't distance themselves either. Marinette, I'm sorry, very sorry, Adrienne gushed as he let go of her face. I'm the one who should be sorry. I didn't mean to. What I mean is, I shouldn't have... She grunted in annoyance at herself. Thank you, Adrienne, for everything. She wasn't just talking about the words of encouragement, but the almost kiss as well. It felt nice to hold him for a fleeting moment. Usually she wouldn't be able to be that close to him. Progress, Marinette. Of course, I should be going. No one is probably looking for me, but just in case. He gave her a quick peck on the cheek, a shy wave, and disappeared through her trapdoor. After he left her room, she felt heat running back to her face. She replayed those last few minutes alone with him in her mind over and over again, until she finally drifted off to sleep, with a smile plastered on her face. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed Chapter 4, don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, if you didn't know, I am on Instagram and Twitter. My Instagram is Rose Writes Miraculously, and my Twitter is Rose Writes Stuff. I am followed by nearly no one on those platforms, so come be my friend. Please. As always, stay miraculous.